If you're spending good money on a pair of wireless headphones and you're not thinking about what codec is actually carrying your audio, you're leaving quality on the table. Not a little. A lot. The gap between a bad Bluetooth codec and a good one on proper source material is not subtle. So today we're breaking down the two heavyweights, AptX Adaptive from Qualcomm and LDAC from Sony. We've gone deep on both, technically and practically, and we're going to talk about which one actually deserves a place in your setup. So let's start with what's actually happening under the hood, because these two codecs take genuinely different approaches. AptX Adaptive, which Qualcomm picked up through its acquisition of Cambridge Silicon Radio back in 2015, runs an ADPCM engine. It works in the time domain, encodes audio in tiny blocks of roughly 16 samples, and predicts each sample from the ones before it. That small frame size is precisely why it can keep latency low. LDAC, on the other hand, is Sony's own creation. They built it in-house and actually open-sourced it into Android in 2017, which was a big deal. It uses MDCT, the same frequency domain transform you'll find in AAC. It processes audio in 128 sample frames, applies a psychoacoustic model to figure out what you're unlikely to hear, and strips that out. Two very different philosophies. One is tuned for time accuracy, the other is built for spectral efficiency. Then, when we move into numbers, both codecs look similar at first glance. Each supports up to 24-bit depth and 96 kHz sample rate. However, the way they use bandwidth is very different. A PTX adaptive scales dynamically between 279 kilobits per second and 1200 kilobits per second, adjusting continuously based on signal conditions. So if your Bluetooth environment becomes unstable, it lowers bitrate smoothly to maintain playback, then increases again when conditions improve. LDAC works in three fixed tiers, 330, 660, and 990 kilobits per second. It checks connection quality roughly every 30 seconds before switching tiers. And with that design, the transition is not gradual. You move from one level to another. In a stable room, you can stay at 990 kilobits per second, which delivers very high fidelity. But in a crowded wireless environment, you may notice those step changes more clearly. Latency. This one's visceral. AptX Adaptive typically operates around 50 to 80 milliseconds, and it can drop to roughly 32 to 40 milliseconds in low latency mode. That range is close to the threshold where audio and video feel aligned to us. So if you watch films, or even play games casually, it remains usable. LDAC sits much higher, around 180 to 200 milliseconds. And with that level of delay, lip sync starts to feel off. So while LDAC focuses on fidelity, it does not aim to solve timing-sensitive scenarios. That trade-off becomes important depending on how you use your gear. Compatibility is where things get real for a lot of you. LDAC is available natively on every Android device running 8.0 or later. Doesn't matter if it's Qualcomm, MediaTek, Exynos, or Tensor inside. Sony contributed it to AOSP with no hardware strings attached. That's a genuinely wide net. AptX Adaptive requires a Qualcomm Snapdragon chip with the right audio subsystem. So Exynos Galaxies, Pixel phones, and MediaTek devices are out. Neither works on iOS. On Windows, LDAC landed in Windows 11/22H2 with compatible adapters, though your mileage will vary. On Linux, BlueZav 5.50, and later supports LDAC natively, which is actually a great fit for audio workstation setups. Let's put some actual hardware on this. If you're in the LDAC camp, the Sony WH1000XM5 native 990 kilobits per second, excellent ANC, and tight Sony ecosystem integration. Pair it with a stable source in a quiet room, and the 990 kilobits per second, LDAC stream is genuinely hard to distinguish from a wire. We think that setup has real merit for home listening. Just be honest with yourself about whether your environment will actually hold that connection steady. On the AptX adaptive side, the Sennheiser Momentum-4. Wireless is a strong pairing with any Snapdragon phone, and if you want maximum flexibility, both codecs, wired output, parametric EQ, the Codec 5K is one of the smartest entry points in the space right now. At 990 kilobits per second in a quiet room, LDAC is genuinely impressive. That quiet room qualifier does a lot of work in that sentence though. So when we step back and try to make sense of it, we don't think there is a single answer that fits everyone. If your listening happens in a controlled space, and you care about extracting as much detail as possible from high-resolution tracks, LDAC at its highest tier does deliver a slight edge in overall fidelity. However, that advantage depends heavily on maintaining a strong and stable connection. But if your listening involves movement, variable signal conditions, or any scenario where timing matters, AptX Adaptive offers a more balanced experience. It keeps audio stable, maintains usable latency, and adapts without requiring your attention. So, know your room. Know your use case. That's what actually determines which one earns its place in your chain. That was all. Thanks for watching. If you found it helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more videos. And don't forget to share your experience in the comments.